Wait, hang on. I'm speaking. Or hear you there. Or hear myself there. Okay. Hi, I'm still here. I'm going to Guatemala on Thursday. Oh, I remember a couple characters who did that there. Hello, room. Anybody? Can the room hear me? Is it loud enough? I'd love it if I said hello, room, and the whole room rose up in a chorus and responded as one voice. I'm speaking into my mic right now, and I'm hearing a little bit of myself over yonder. What I have in terms of I'm audible. My voice is somewhere besides here in this room. I think I'm here and over there. It's floating, but it's our technology is infantilizing us. I will not be muted.
And we can go whenever. I'm gonna do a report on this. Okay, yeah. Oh, yeah, I walked by one like. Now. Order presenter. I told her that I could go and then you could just go.
Are you sure? Everybody, we're waiting on Mike to tell me that we're good. We're good?
Yeah.
You got video, you got audio?
I got video, I got audio. Yeah, you're hot.
We're hot.
Yes.
Great. Good to go. Everybody good? You like drink? Get some pizza? All right. Great. So hi. Welcome to Code for Boston. Thank you. This is where you clap. My name is Harley. I'm one of the organizers here. On behalf of our entire organization, I'd like to welcome you all to our demo night. Thank you so much for joining us. We have a great night lined up for you all. We have speakers and demos from our project teams, from our friends in the community, all the good things you want on a cold New England night like this. I may have wrote that last week when it was like 6 degrees. Maybe I can. Okay, so here's how tonight will go. Here's our agenda. You're going to be stuck with me for a couple of minutes for some opening remarks before we get into our main content. We have 4 demos from Code for Boston project teams, 2 from our partners at the City of Boston and the MBTA. That'll take about an hour and a half. Then we'll have some time to hang out, talk with the presenters about some of their work, grab another slice if there's anything left. There's a big stack of empty pizza boxes back there. And just meet and hang out with some of your fellow civic techies. So sound like a good way to spend the night? You glad you came out? So before we get into that, a couple of housekeeping things. All of our events are covered by our code of conduct. Some of the more important parts are listed here. If you feel like the code of conduct is being sort of violated in any way, please reach out to a member of our leadership team here at Code for Boston in person or send us an email at this address right here. Speaking of our leadership team, if you're on the leadership team of Code for Boston, can you raise your hand? Real folks? Will, Ryan, Annie, Matt, Mike, Thad is somewhere. If you need anything, have any questions, you know where the bathroom is, all of the things, they can help you find them, they can help you out. Lastly, I just want to remind you all that we're both recording these demos and broadcasting them on our YouTube channel. So this is a live event. Before we go any further though, I want to invite our friends from CIC up to say a few words.
Well, I just wanted to say hello, everyone, and welcome to CIC. We're so excited to have you all here. My name is Jen, and I'm one of the events coordinators, and I've been working with the team for Code for Boston to really put all of this together for everybody. So we're really happy to have you all here. For those unfamiliar with CIC, we're a global community of vibrant entrepreneurial hubs dedicated to fostering innovation. Whether you're a seasoned member or a newcomer of our spaces, CIC provides world-class infrastructure, a flexible office space, attentive hospitality, and engaging events industry programming. So similarly to the event that you're going to experience tonight by the Code for Boston team. So as at CIC, our members are really representing startups of all sizes and industries. They share a common trait. They're all exceptional and earnest entrepreneurs. Serious about their ventures, they thrive in a collaborative community, which I know Code for Boston really thrives also in a collaborative community and providing that outlook or that space for coders to really come together and work together on these amazing projects, which we're all excited to see tonight. And they're all, as an event coordinator, my focus is really bringing in dynamic event programming into these spaces. And with all of our community members, we host over, I'd say, 100 events per month. So if you're interested in any of the events that we have going on outside of this one, you're more than welcome to check out our cic.com/events to see what we have going on in the spaces. But without further ado, I will hand it back to our lovely host and enjoy your evening. Thank you so much for being here.
Thank you so much. We've been here at CIC for a long time, over a decade, and they are one of the parts of the engine that make this whole thing go. So thank you so much for being our host. All right. This is the part where you're stuck with me for just a couple minutes. So it's been a little while since we've had a demo night. I think our last one was in 2022. So I thought I'd take a couple of minutes and just talk about where Code for Boston is at in 24. Meetup tells me that quite a few of you are new to our community. Maybe it's your first time at Code for Boston. So first of all, welcome. Everybody, a hand for new folks if it's your first time. Well, this will also be a nice intro for anyone who is new, maybe hasn't been around for a while. We'll get into it. So, what is Code for Boston? We are a civic technology volunteer group. We're a group of developers, designers, researchers, urban planners, data geeks, policy wonks, citizen activists. Like, it's a big tent. We work with governments and community groups in the Boston area to build civic applications, to open public data sources, and generally sort of leverage technology for the public good. Excuse me. We got started here in Boston in 2012. So we're coming up on our 12th birthday this year. Yeah, like middle school. We're primarily a project-based group. We collaborate with our partners at our flagship weekly Hack Night, which are every Tuesday here at the CIC on the 4th floor. And we have larger hackathon events. We run more speaking-oriented events like this, like Ignite Talks that we're hoping to run later this year, workshops, a whole bunch of stuff. To give you a bit of the sense of what the kind of work we do, here's maybe a sample of our partners and the projects we've done over those last 12 years. So we've worked with the city of Boston to build an Alexa voice app. We worked on a planning tracker with the city of Somerville called Cornerwise. We worked with the city of Cambridge on a couple of things. We helped get a law passed, the open data ordinance there in the city of Cambridge. We worked on a family resource finder with the city. We built a social security calculator with Congressman Seth Moulton's office. Before the T, where's Jesse? Before the T had a really good Twitter feed, we built a Twitter bot called MBTA Alerts that would tell you where your train was. We worked with Revere. We built a vaccine finder during the pandemic. We've done a whole bunch of stuff over the last 12 years. And if you're curious about any of those, come find me or one of our leadership team members afterwards, and we can tell you about them. For a bit of a snapshot on our community, hey, is that Zoom thing supposed to be up there?
Yeah.
Okay. So here's where we're at. In our meetup has about almost 8,000 members. We've got about 5,000 people in our Slack. That doesn't mean 5,000 people are in there. Several people are typing all the time, but they are in there working on a project with us. In 23, our weekly attendance at Hack Night and mixed presence is between 35 and 50 people. This is down from our peak in 2019, right before the pandemic, where we had sometimes 100 people every week. which is pretty wild, I have to admit. But we're slowly getting back towards that space. And anyone who's been to a Hack Night can tell you it's a pretty fun place to be. We have 4 active projects. We're always looking for more. So if you're interested in partnering with us, come find someone on the leadership team and let us know. And I think it's always worthwhile to talk about the folks from our community who've gone on to go into sort of professionalize into civic technology. So 35 members of our community over the years have gone into civic tech jobs at the city of Boston, the state of Massachusetts, the T, 18F, and the US Digital Service, which are the federal innovation teams. You can see here, I don't need to read you the slide, but this is Code for Boston is a good place to sort of figure out if the intersection of civics and government and technology is a thing you want to do for your career. So shifting gears a bit, I wanted to also update you all a bit on our status as an organization. It sounds more ominous than it actually is, I promise. So historically, Code for Boston has been part of Code for America's Volunteer Brigade program. It's a national organization of groups just like ours, with local chapters across the country. I think, maybe Will can check me here, at the high point, there were brigade groups in about 80 cities with something like 20 or 30,000 volunteers across the country. Does that sound right? That's about right. Supported by a central team at Code for America to grow and build that network. If you're not familiar with Code for America, they're a big national nonprofit located in San Francisco, dedicated to making government work for everyone in the digital age. But at the beginning of 23, they made the decision to go in sort of a different direction with their business, and they wound down their support of the Volunteer Brigade program nationally. So while this was and sort of still is very sad, we did a lot of good work with Code for America. We made a lot of friendships, a lot of connections, built a lot of apps, and had a lot of really incredible conversations about this work at the intersection of civics and government and technology and policy. We're excited about sort of the freedom and this chance for a new start that this break represents for Code for Boston. So we're still working through some final details, but starting in 24, Code for Boston will be its own independent organization. I appreciate the claps, but in practice, this actually doesn't mean a whole lot. We will still be here in CIC every Tuesday for Hack Night. We will still be engaging with you all as partners and collaborators. But what this does mean is that we're a little more in control of our own destiny. We're sort of able to more chart a path for our work here in Boston far into the future without relying on, or being beholden to a larger organization. But for those of you who are longtime volunteers, this is a little bit of the end of an era. So I want to take a few minutes, give you all the download, maybe pour one out, and get excited about what's coming next. So if anyone has any questions about this, I'll be happy to answer them after demos later tonight. But for now, that's where we are at as an organization. We're also, these guys, we're also a founding member of a new nonprofit, the Alliance of Civic Technologists, which aims to serve as the connection point for civic tech volunteer groups across the country. You can check them out at this URL right here. But we're trying to sort of rebuild that cross-country network that we had when we were working with Code for America. So if this is your first time, if you're not a regular attendee at our Hack Night, or if you are a lapsed member, if you want to get involved, here are a couple of ways to do so. You can come to a Hack Night, check it out on Meetup. We are here at CIC at 7 o'clock every Tuesday. If you have a project idea or you want to partner with us, if you're from a government or community group and you have an idea for something that maybe one of these demos will strike a chord with you, come find one of us on the leadership team. We have a form on our website where you can fill out a project idea, come connect with us. And if you want to stay in touch, you can sign up for our mailing list, also on the website, follow us on all the social media things. I just can't bring myself to say X, but we're on Twitter and YouTube and all the places. Most of these things you can find the link for at codeforboston.org. So, everyone up to speed? Feeling good? Feeling informed? Okay. So before we get into the program, and thank you so much for sticking with me this long. I know this is not why you showed up tonight. I just want to get some thanks out there. So first of all, thank you so much to our leadership team. All those folks who raise their hands again. Our leadership team puts in a ton of work every week and every month to make all this happen. They are ordering pizza, we are working through issues, we are connecting with partners, all the things that make it so that all of the volunteers can go in and just like not worry and just jam. That all lays on the leadership team, and like I'm so thankful for their partnership in this. Next is our project leads, many of whom you'll hear from tonight. They are the volunteers who have stepped up to lead their projects, to drive forward on development, on design, on bringing the vision of our partners to life. And so thank you so much to all of our project leads who are out there. Raise your hands. Project leads. Dad, raise your hand. And lastly, and probably most importantly, I want to thank all of you. So all of the amazing volunteers, people who are regular attendees, people who are new, everyone who gives so much of your time and energy and thought and care to building these things for our community here in Boston, Massachusetts. I'm up here talking for these slides, and that's great. But like all of you are what make Code for Boston like the amazing and special place that it is every single week. Week in, week out, year in, year out for the last 11 years. So thank you. That's you.
Much younger.
Yeah, that's how I feel when I look back at some of these pictures too. Okay, you're done with me now. Now this is the part that you all signed up for. Ready for some demos? Ready to go? Okay. So we have 4 Code for Boston projects, and then 2 presentations from our friends at the City of Boston, the MBTA. This will run till 8:45, then we'll be able to hang out. These are the demos in order. And I think that's it. So who's here from the Maple team to get started? All right, let's put it together for the Maple team.
All right, yeah, that's me. Yeah, can we go into present? Yeah, just a little bit of text. While we're getting everything set up, thank you so much for hosting all the projects to share at demo night. I'm really thrilled to be able to share the work that we're doing on the Maple project, the Massachusetts Platform for Legislative Engagement. I'm Nathan Sanders, and I have this privilege to share the work of dozens of Code for Boston volunteers over multiple years now. And I don't think I've seen everyone come in. Can I just ask, is there anyone else here who's contributed to the Maple project? And if you could you raise your hand? Here's at least one. But thank you to Jeff and everyone else who's contributed to Maple. You'll be able to hear some of your work. Oh, thank you so much for setting up. Great. I don't want to advance. Not advancing. Can I use the arrow? There we go. Great. So with Maple, we are trying to solve a very specific problem, which is that while your voice is critical to the legislation of Massachusetts and the laws that govern all of our lives, it's actually, for many people, very hard to express your voice, to have your voice heard in the legislative process. We have, I would say, an arcane system in Massachusetts for how you can have your voice heard during the legislative process. And what that results in is exclusion. It makes it hard for different types of people, for diverse groups of people to have their voice heard in the laws that govern all of our lives. So we're trying to address that. We think the solution is a technology platform, a platform for legislative engagement that makes it radically easier for anyone and everyone to have their voice heard as part of the legislative process. We've tried to build that at Maple over the last couple of years. We've launched our platform publicly, and I'll demo it for you in a moment. Last year at the start of the current legislative session, over the last 2 months, we've built up a user community. We've now had almost 500 pieces of testimony submitted to the legislature through Maple, and we're thrilled about that. And we're really excited for the remainder of this session and the next session to build that user base and impact even more. So we have a mission that comprises 3 goals at Maple. We are advancing openness in Massachusetts. We are now the first and only place where you can go to actually see testimony, to read what other people have told the legislature is important to them. The legislature does not operate such a platform. There's no other space for publicly sharing testimony other than what we've created at Maple. We're focused on accessibility. We want to demystify the process and make it radically easier for everybody to have their voice heard as part of the legislative process. And we're focused on building engagement. We want more people and more types of people to be able to engage, connect with the legislature and have their voice heard. We think that what we built is really different from anything that's out there. Again, we are the first platform that is a public archive of legislative testimony. So that much is completely new. We're also providing a moderated space. You know, we are not social media. We do have a clear code of conduct. We do have moderation. We don't allow trolling. We really value sincerity over performance. We're not a platform that prioritizes engagement. We're not looking for retweets and clicks on testimony. We're trying to provide a space for people to share their own stories and what matters to them and how a law would affect their lives and their families. And we focus on building a shared reality. We're not a platform that has an algorithm that serves you something different than me because we respond to different things and creates a filter bubble. We make it easy for you to find the bills that are about the topics you're interested in, but then we show you the same information that everybody else sees. So we do have this fantastic team at Code for Boston. We've had contributions from over 100 volunteers to design, development, code over the years. I wish I could shout out everybody. Let me just make sure to shout out our leadership team, our steering committee, Matthew Victor, co-founder of the project, Dan Jackson at the New Law Lab at Northeastern University, which is our institutional host, Alex Ball, James Vasquez, Sasha Goldberg, and Anna Steele are steering our work, and we've had fantastic contributions from so many more Code for Boston volunteers. We've also got a fantastic advisory board that we've brought on, including really, sort of legendary figures in Massachusetts, policymaking and politics, including Daniel Allen and some guy named Harlan who help us steer the work that we do. All right, our tech stack, we're using TypeScript for the application framework, Next.js for the front end, Storybook for UI components. We're built on top of a Firebase backend, many more technologies listed here. This is a link to our repo, which has a wiki that documents this in more detail. But what I would like to do is get into a demo. So I'm going to do my best to switch tabs. Is this going to work? Sorry, Mike, I might need your help. You don't know the tab. Okay, I think I got it. Although I can't see the mouse. Is it?
It's way off to your right.
Off to the right.
Yeah. Left.
Oh, I see it. Okay, great. Thank you. So this is mapletestimony.org. This is our production platform live on the web. When you visit, one of the first things that you can do is see all the testimony that people have posted. So again, this is now the only web platform, the only resource that allows you to see the testimony that people have left on bills. Almost 500 testimonies have been left on Maple over the past few months, covering dozens of bills in total. Some bills have really been active on the platform. We've got dozens of people sharing their perspective. You can read any testimony in detail. You can go back to, how do I just click on this? There we go. You can go back to the bill page itself. You can find all the information about the legislation, the full text of the legislation, where it stands in the committee process, who the sponsors of the legislation are, and then you can see the testimony that other people have referenced. Okay, let me see if I can go back to our slides. Oh, sorry. All right. I think last point I want to make is about all the exciting features that we have planned that are coming up. Right now, our team is really focused on building out the ability for you to get email alerts and to follow and get notifications about bills. We're building in integrations of lobbying data to see what registered lobbyists, in addition to residents and citizens who are testifying about bills have to say. We're building out translation features to make it easier for people whose native language is not English to engage with the legislature. In the second half of the year, we're planning new features that will include profiles for candidates and office holders, transcripts of oral hearings, integrating information about voting records and amendments about bills, and using large language models and AI tools to provide summarization and additional information and context for our users. Looking forward into 2025, we're thrilled to start our second legislative session at Maple, getting ready for an onslaught of thousands of new bills that will be filed and continuing to invest in integrations of new technologies like large language models that can help us build tools that are great for users. So if you have interest in any of this work, we'd love to work with you. We've got roles for advocates, we've got roles for researchers, and of course for developers, designers, data scientists. There's so much work we'd love to do with you. So thank you.
Now I've got a few minutes for questions. If anyone has a question, sort of stand up and fire away.
Yes, have you ever had any feedback from people using the platform on how they liked it?
Yes, absolutely. So
Repeat the question.
repeat the question. Yeah. So have we gotten any feedback from our user community? Yes, absolutely. We think of our user community in a few buckets. First and foremost for us are residents, citizens who have opinions about legislation. We've been holding a weekly onboarding session for anyone who wants to join. We've been able to meet some of our users directly through that. We've also run some design studies to get direct individual feedback about our UX experience. Another important constituency for us is organizations, sort of professional advocacy groups that help organize people to submit testimony to the legislature. We've worked really closely with a few partners who are some of the kind of early adopters of our platform to help be responsive to their needs. And the third community for us is legislators themselves, making sure that the people in the State House understand what it means when they get testimony submitted through Maple and are finding value from the platform that we're creating. Maybe I'm back.
My question was regarding the moderation part, like how do you moderate like content and how that moderated by experts or
Great question. How do we do moderation? This is really important for us because enforcing that code of conduct, having a safe space for people to discuss these issues that are so important to the community is critical. So to date, we've built out moderation features. Our developer team has exposed the capability for us to review content, for people to flag content to us, and for us to take action on testimony when it's needed. Our volume today is at a date where our developer team themselves can serve as the moderators. We're not at a point where we need to go substantially beyond that group. But we have built out a code of conduct and terms of service to provide clear guidelines for how others could join that moderation effort if we get to that scale.
Yeah, so my question actually follows on that one and relates to how you rank the different content. Is it just a sort of like Reddit style upvoting or a more like are you promoting content that is most credible or useful? Like, what's your philosophy to choosing which of the bits of input with the highest thing?
Great question. When it comes to ranking testimony, as you saw, we're now at the point where some bills have dozens of pieces of testimony. And our intent is not to be the decider or recommender of which content is most valuable or credible, but to give users tools to allow them to sort and filter. So I think our default ranking is just chronological. We submitted testimony most recently. One important feature we provide is the ability to filter down to testimony from individuals versus organizations. We know a lot of people come to our site and they want to know what the membership group that they're a part of, the organizations that they're familiar with are saying, and we make it really easy to find that content, but we don't limit to that by default. We have other tools for sorting bills as well to make it easy for people to find the bills that relate to topics that they're interested in, but we don't try and put any thumb on the scale to say one bill is more important than another or one testimony is more important. Right? Yeah,
What last one?
last one.
How do folks use the search functionality to find bills, find
Great question. How do folks use the search functionality? Well, we've implemented a full text sort of universal search that will search across bills and testimony. Actually, this ends up being one of the features that people are really attracted to. For us, our focus is building engagement, getting more people to engage with the legislative process. But for folks who are already insiders, when they go to our website, the first thing they tell us is, this is so much faster than the legislature's website. Even if I'm just accessing information I could get from the legislature, being able to do it in seconds instead of minutes is transformative for me. So the search feature itself ends up being pretty useful for people, even though for us, it's really kind of a means to an end. We're really more focused on helping people submit their testimony and then providing this public archive. Thank you all so much.
Thank you to the Maple team. And also, so after we're done with all the demos, like if you still have questions that we can get to, we're trying to like make sure this goes, like come find the team. Nathan will be right here. It's an amazing project. Also, the legislature's site is like pretty slow. So, Mike, we're ready to talk about the heat energy calculator, and I need you to do some computer things to make that happen.
I'll do my best.
All right, great. This one's a little complicated because I have a remote presenter, so if you can all bear with us, we're gonna try and do something tricky. Thad, are you the local rep here? All right. So why don't you give a brief intro to the project, and then Mike will get this going. Does that sound okay? Here you go. All right, the heat energy calculator.
Ready to go?
Right behind my back. Go ahead, Steve.
Okay. Hi, everyone. I'm Steve Bright. I'm a volunteer and co-founder of the Heat Smart Alliance and the collaborator with Code for Boston on the Home Energy Analysis Tool, or Heat Energy Calculator. Thad, can you share this first slide? Or should I share my screen? Imagine a future in which all Massachusetts homes and residences are decarbonized. Well, in order to get there, we have to stop burning fossil fuels. And to do that, we have to convert our existing heating systems in about 2 million homes to energy efficient heat pumps powered by clean electricity. That's what the Heat Smart Alliance is helping individual homeowners and communities make this very costly and difficult transition. We have to get halfway there by 2030 and all the way there by 2050. Those are Massachusetts state goals. So I'm delighted to be and grateful that the Code for Boston has taken on this project. It started with so this is just one piece of the puzzle, but it started with a spreadsheet that we developed over the past 4 years that's used by Heat Smart Alliance volunteers. We have over 100 now from 50 Massachusetts communities. At least 70 of them have downloaded this tool, and even some professionals are starting to use this spreadsheet. It's available from our website, but we don't make it really obvious because of the support requirements. And so the goal of the spreadsheet itself has a number of tabs. The user inputs information about the home, basic information about the heating system, and the energy use history, whether it's natural gas, fuel oil, or propane. And the main output is 2 graphs, one of which is used to assess how large a heat pump would be needed in the home, and the other helps us assess, is the home even ready for a heat pump? How does its weatherization compare with other homes? The HEAT project, the goal is to provide a web application that includes all of the functionality in the current web spreadsheet, but really we want to go beyond that. And even in the first instantiation of this web app, it'll go beyond the existing spreadsheet. It'll have access to weather data and online databases and be much more user-friendly and allow us to track usage of all the tools, and that the data that gets entered in the tools will in itself be useful for that comparison with other homes. The project team is structured into 4 sub-teams. One of them is just forming now. 3 of them have been working for a while. We started in June 2023, and we're working toward a beta 1 release, our minimum viable product. But we have a release roadmap that goes to a beta 2 and then a 1.0 release. And then I have vision for a lot of additional functionality that we can accomplish after that. So this will be a very useful tool in this mission of converting our, not only in Massachusetts, but I expect the tool will find usage elsewhere in the United States. So with that, I'll turn it over to the project team members to describe what they're doing.
Rules engine. Join our persistence team. You can work on the front end side, you can work on authentication. And then there's other pieces here. And we're hoping, besides these ways of engaging with our project, you will be able to use this tool as an individual person for your house. And so just, hey, you can watch YouTube. Thank you. That's all. Questions? Okay, we have a couple of questions. Any questions? I think Steve.
Hey, Ted. How do we find the site? Like if I'm in the market for a heat pump, which I have to be, what do I do?
So the heat, so the app will be online. We haven't picked the domain yet, but we've been, if you visit our GitHub, you can see the current progress, and there'll be a link there once we launch beta 1. So that's one way. The HeatSmart coaches have an amazing website that explains the spreadsheet. If you want to calculate for yourself, you can download the spreadsheet and use it. I think probably it's straightforward enough that many people here could pick it up. And that's the HeatSmart Alliance website. Okay, great. Thank you, guys. Great physical. Now we're going to have our first presenter from one of our governmental partners. We can help us, right? Like. Are we going to broadcast Mike's email to everyone on YouTube?
Oh, sure. Yes. I will start. Thank you. Hello. My name is Maddie. I am an historian. I have never coded. So I appreciate that Harlan and Will thought this would be interesting to you all, given that I have no expertise in the subject that you're interested in. But I'll talk anyway. So great. This is a talk about Boston's hollow sidewalk problem. I'm from the Mayor's Office of New Urban Mechanics, which I'm assuming you may have heard of, but we're the City Civic Innovation Research and Design Lab. And this is a project a little bit unlike any of the projects that we do because it's very heavy into like engineering, but not the tech kind. So, see, perfect. Okay. Did you know that often when you're walking around Boston, particularly the historic parts, you are often walking on hollow ground? These are people's basements that extend past the front of their properties underneath the public sidewalk. And they were, the technology to support these was invented in the 1840s, 1850s. And they were first used to facilitate the delivery of coal. And then they were used to facilitate deliveries, etc., to businesses usually. And they were really great and very exciting to people in the 19th century. And these days they are mostly used for utilities. I've been in a lot of them. There are just a lot of cockroaches. However, every once in a while you do get someone is using it for something really interesting. Like there's some restaurants that use it like a cool bar area. So people still use it, but honestly, they're very, very leaky and terrible. And I will say that as terrible as they can be for people who own them and don't really wanna have to steward this part of like underneath the sidewalk, they're even worse for people who have to walk or roll over them, because this is all like private basement and then this is all city sidewalk. And since the 1850s, the city has been allowed to say, not our problem, because the municipal code says that if you operate or own a void underneath the sidewalk, you have to take care of the sidewalk above. But I don't know about you, I had never heard of this before, and I don't think anyone who has an areaway, if they know they have an areaway, knows that they have to take care of the sidewalk. So for a year and a half, I've been trying to figure out, do we either like write violations to try to make people do the work of their sidewalk and make it ADA compliant, or does the city try to take it that back? And so after a year and a half of a lot of arguing and a lot of civil servants who do care a lot about the city and are willing to actually take on more work than in the past they've had to, we've said, we're gonna take care of these sidewalks. So I'm gonna tell you though about one of the many issues that I came across when trying to have the city take ownership of this. So very few areaways are identifiable from the sidewalk. So every once in a while you have one that has a vault cover, and that's awesome. Then it's clearly an airway, or it has like a coal hole cover. But often, and this is me from a while ago when I was still confused, they just look like a bad sidewalk. But the problem is like not all bad sidewalks are areaways. Most bad sidewalks are like sidewalks that maybe someone at the city thought could be an areaway, and so it's sort of written off. But the city never goes to check to see if it is an areaway. And so we've tried a bunch of different things to try to map them because the city has no map of them. Yeah. So first of all, I tried to put on this is the only techie thing I did is I like learned how to like loosely do GIS. And I just took every document the city has officially about areaways. It's not that many, but the Public Improvement Commission had a bunch of like contracts whenever the few times that areaway owners have talked to the city to be like, hey, I have an areaway, they're like, oh my God, awesome, let's memorialize that. And then there were some ISD permits and violations, again, not that many. And then my favorite data set is all these closed through on one request, and they're always closed in the most evil of fashions in all caps. It's always some version of sidewalk is an areaway and the property owner's responsibility. And there's never like, we're gonna look into this, or like, here's what we're gonna do, or here's what you can do. We just close the case and that's it. We don't try to contact the property owner. And I asked, he's gone now, but I asked one of the chief engineers, like, okay, when you close the case, what do you do? And he's like, we usually pull up Google Street View and we look at the sidewalk on Google Street View, and then someone makes a call. Maybe it's hollow. So that was that. And then I went out with that chief engineer, John, and Raman, who used to work for the city or work for Stantec. They're both gone now because areaways are terrible. We did a on sidewalk survey to see like, can we use visual clues? And there are some things like if the sign is bolted onto a plate and then bolted into the ground that way and not embedded into the cement, then it could be an areaway, because some BTD or transportation department person was like, it might be an areaway, so we're not going to screw with it. However, I did talk to many areaway owners that said, every once in a while, someone is just poking a hole in the sign, and it just like, I looked up and it's just like the bottom of a sign in someone's basement. This was super ineffective. Our accuracy was very poor. And then I went with a bunch of building inspectors. We had some cold calls. A lot of people got really mad about that. And often we'll get in there and they're like, I don't know, are we under the sidewalk? They'll like use their best ability to judge if we're in an areaway. But often what's happened is like if they were using in the 1850s, they've since built a plywood wall, like being like, we don't need this space and it's leaky and we'll pretend it's on ours, because you can get a violation for not keeping the ceiling structurally sound. So like a lot of times they're like, we don't know. So that sucked. And then I sent an intern to the city archives in West Roxbury, where I did a lot of my research for my dissertation, but I got sick of going out there. And I was like, can you find some blueprints and see if you can see if the basement floor plan footprint is larger than the first floor footprint? And he found like a couple, but it's very, very spotty there. So I timed how long it took him and it was not efficient. And then finally semi-finally, I did a lot of oral histories. There's that employee who's been around for a long time. He knows everything. I just was like, tell me every time you've seen an areaway. And he's like, yeah, in 1975, I was out on this corner once, and I think that was an areaway. I was like, cool. I'm the historian again, so this counted as data to me. I talked to constituents, I sent them out. The Leather District folks are very active in their community, like very impressed by them. And I was like, talk to every one of your neighbors and see if you can put on a spreadsheet for me everywhere you think is an areaway. And they tried their darndest, and honestly, decent job, but I felt really bad for them because a lot of their answers were maybe. And then finally, so this is where we finally get to some of the good. My former boss, Chris Carter, suggested doing ground penetrating radar. And I guess the city had kind of written it off, because what I've learned about GPR is if you don't have a really good, well-trained GPR technician, and you couple that with trying to find utility wires and pipes and the stuff that are like very small. Boston is so old, there's so much happening underground, it's very hard to figure out what's what. But who's gonna miss a giant gaping void in the sidewalk? So we did it, and we were on the news, CBS, local CBS station. And turns out it was pretty effective, and I've learned a lot. GPR is better for some things, like some areaways. So this one, so here, I took this photo, but here's our GPR tech. He had never used to his company is the largest GPR company in the country. They've never done this before, like looking for areaways. Tombs, yes. Areaways, no. So when it's brick, so this is we're underneath the building here. This is underneath the sidewalk. And when it's a brick vault, brick is clay, so it looks a lot like soil. So he was honestly like, I'm not seeing any clear structural support. I don't know if it's an areaway, but he sort of, even though he was well trained, he learned over time the difference between what a brick support structure, steel I-beams, rebar, wood, all these things look really different, and he documented it, and I think is teaching the rest of the company about it. So we're pretty jazzed. And what he'll do is he'll go down a street, he'll mark in real time where it looks like there could be an areaway. And we found a ton. I mean, this is Temple Place. He sent me the raw data, and then I changed the polygons a little bit so that they conformed, because we didn't have a GPS signal. But these are all areaways. So that's most parts of that street, and the street is awful. So to conclude, what we're gonna do with this data, because WBZ keeps asking us what we're gonna do with it, we are going to incorporate areaways into our capital street reconstruction projects. Instead of abandoning Chinatown and a lot of the downtown because they're potentially areaways, we're gonna, number one, find the areaways. Number two, this will allow us to engage with property owners with some authority saying this is an areaway, not do you have an areaway? And then we're going to really incentivize backfill. So the city is gonna pay for the backfill part, dump a bunch of gravel into areaways. The owner has to pay to build the retaining wall, but it's gonna be so much more inexpensive, $9,000 to $12,000 for them to do that, versus repairing your structurally unsound areaway is $125,000. So we're really trying to close them all. And even though I handed off this project, I am still talking about it because it's very interesting to me, and I hope it is too. And if you want to learn more, here's our website, or email me. Yes, sorry, first.
You mentioned that the tech sort of learns sort of signals for what might be an area away versus like, say like play and things.
Yeah,
And it's training of people in the company. Are they trying to sort of make that absorb? Like I guess like a lot of tech people here will be thinking, oh, that sounds like something like machine learning and deep learning techniques to be good for. Is that?
oh my gosh. Oh, that's very interesting. So yeah, so he asked, instead of relying on the GPR tech to in real time, like analyze the electromagnetic waves and try to figure out if it's an area away or not, can we like automate that with machine learning? Is that your question?
Yeah.
And that would be great if you all want to do that. I think I've heard that some other types of GPR companies and some geophysicists will not just rely on the tech to push and like do it in real time, but to actually like take in all the raw data and look at it themselves with their eye. But I don't even know that they're using machine learning then. So yeah, that sounds awesome. Yes.
A couple of data questions. How many areaways have you identified in the city? And is there any data source that tells you the year that everything was built, like that the type of building that's most likely to have an areaway?
Oh, that's interesting. So the question was, how many areaways have we identified, and is there a data source that tells us like when buildings are built and if they're likely to have areaways? So for the first answer is through ground penetrating radar, we identified 44 areaways, and we scanned like 70 something properties. And then all those other data points I pointed out, I haven't counted them in a while, but I can get back to you on that. But there are a lot of areaways so far. And then I know we don't have a map. The media keeps asking. We're making it now. And then yeah, for when buildings are built, I mean it's hard because you could look at like fire insurance atlases and sometimes assessing has that information. I guess you could. But the thing is, some people have closed them in over the years and changed like the layout and how big the areaway is. So there's no like one source. That's why I looked for so many different.
So you check like these are all the houses that at one time had an areaway.
No, wish I did. Yes.
Once the reclamation is done and the areaway is filled in, does that mean that the city can reclaim that sidewalk and it can be properly maintained?
Yeah, so once the areaway is filled in, the city reclaims the sidewalk and maintains it as a regular sidewalk, correct?
Are any of them historically significant that doesn't want to happen?
Yeah, so this is fascinating. So Seattle has a much better way of stewarding these things and knows about them, unlike any other city in the country. Because they are historic and they're like interconnected, so you can walk through them. These are not that way. I did my dissertation in historic preservation. And one of my first things with the city is I documented all the historic like granite paving slabs. And a lot of those historic granite paving slabs and bluestone slabs are over areaways. I think it's more important to maintain accessibility than the historic slabs, but that's just my 2 cents. Okay, cool, thank you.
So Maddie will be here all night for all of the rest of the questions that I know everyone has. Because as soon as I saw this presentation last year at the BARI conference, and then every time I'm walking around downtown Boston now, I'm just sort of like, what's happening here? And it sort of maybe stresses me out a lot.
Yeah.
It should, right?
Yeah. Some people fall into that.
Great. Did you interview any of them?
I've interviewed a lot of people who have like fallen on the sidewalks.
Not into the area.
No, not yet.
Well, hopefully no one here is the first, because now you know what to look for. So coming up next, are we coming up next? We're working on coming. Coming up next, we have Daryl Malone out of National Police Data Co. Is it behind me yet?
Now we know that we're
We ready to roll? All right, looks like I'm highlighted. I can't hear, so I hope that you guys can hear me out there. I'm seeing some reactions. Okay, good deal. So yeah, my name is Daryl Malone. I'm the founder of the National Police Data Coalition, and our project is the National Police Data Index. So the kind of foundation with this project was 2020. I had previously been the founder of an organization called the Tubman Project that was working with attorneys developing artificial intelligence technologies for attorneys and eventually going into working on data. And 2020 was kind of uh, a call that made me want to look at what we could do in this particular area of police violence and misconduct. This was a really, really seminal moment for everybody, for a lot of people, I think. But it was especially interesting to me because of how kind of graphic it was. And it was the first time that we saw this idea of bystanders kind of being charged as well and it kind of assumed that they had this duty to intervene to kind of protect life. One of the other things that was interesting about that moment is how widely it impacted the world. Unfortunately, one of the things that we know about protests, this is a study that I'm kind of highlighting, is that the impacts on consciousness are not permanent. According to the study, it lasts about 2 years, and that's if a protest is hyperlocal. Then you'll have that impact where there's a reduction in violence, there's more attention paid, and then that kind of dissipates over time. So we've had that impact nationally, and we're starting to see that same amount of public pressure, starts to eventually fade. So the question is, how do we actually do something that is more substantial and more permanent, more structural to change the way that police interact with the public? This is where we came up with the idea for the National Police Data Index, which we're going to show you in a moment. But the basic concept is it's an open source intelligence network. It's connecting attorneys, journalists, people who are working in the field, hands-on with the people and the police officers who are engaged in this world, whether it's civil rights attorneys who are working to hold police accountable through lawsuits, or defense attorneys who are directly representing those who are impacted. Our project really works directly with them to enhance their ability to do their jobs and to really apply that pressure through the legal system on police officers. So with that context, I think we're going to go into the demonstration. Pascal, I think, is going to do the actual introduction or the actual presentation. Okay, I think I see her. So yeah, I'll let you take it over.
Attorney's office would provide information about Officer Johnson's past misconducts to the defense. But often this is not done in a satisfactory way. So the officer may choose not to inform the prosecutor of their past misconduct cases, or the prosecutor may decide not to classify something as exculpatory and may withhold this information. So in both of these cases, the defense attorney has no knowledge of what happened and has to uncover this information themselves. So thankfully, Attorney Anderson is a member of the National Police Data Coalition and has access to the Police Data Index. And then he is able to check Officer Johnson's record on this index, and this is what we're working on. So I'll show you guys this demo. This will give them access to all of the incidents that other attorneys have reported, and they'll also be able to see what has been reported by other organizations like 50A.org, Mapping Police Violence, or in the local paper. So you have a little prototype. There you go. Okay. Let's figure out how to navigate. Okay. So the attorney here, Attorney Anderson, can log into his account on the National Police Data Coalition. He can search by an officer's name. He'll put in Aaron Johnson here and then do a search. Here he'll be able to find Aaron Johnson and see the officer's records. And again, this is all sourced from either places like 50A.org or by other attorneys who have reported cases. So on here, eventually, we'll also be able to see other officers' involvements in cases as well, because sometimes an officer will have a partner and together they will kind of do the misconduct. And then it might be a pattern. So you might see over time, like certain officers that work together have all these cases building up against them. We'll also eventually be able to, so this is currently for New York City only, but so eventually you'll also be able to see that an officer who's works in New York City, if they've worked in other departments as well, you'll see their misconduct cases from there. Because sometimes they don't share that information between departments. Or I would say probably most of the time they don't share that information. Yeah, so from here, Attorney Anderson would also be able to report the incident for Brian Jones's case. What we're also building is, for the attorneys to be able, or different organizations to be able to have their own profile pages on this website, so they can communicate with each other, share information, message each other about any cases that they're working on. And here they'll be able to now create a incident report for Brian Jones's case. And then all of the different incidents that this lawyer has reported is going to go on their profile page. And again, people can view it from here and then they can create conversation about it. We're also creating the ability for them to create posts and updates on what they're working on or talk about the incident reports that they have. And also we're going to have sort of a messaging community board where people can talk about different issues that are arising and how they can all help each other. Yeah, so that's the end of what I have for this demo. I guess we'll go back to the presentation if I can, is it up here? Yeah. Great. So this is how you can contact us. So website or GitHub and
check.
Okay, and then I don't know if Daryl wants to add anything for the end.
Yeah, no, that's great, and happy to answer any questions. I can't hear at the moment. I don't know if somebody asked something.
Done.
Daryl, we got a question here. Has the data here been used in a case about officer misconduct?
Yeah, good question. So we're actually launching the pilot version of our software later this year. We're engaged in a project with, so let me preface this by saying this has been kind of across the nation effort, kind of from the beginning. Initially, we had multiple Code for America brigades that were working on the project and still are. We're also now engaged with a group called Develop for Good. So we're right now in the process of releasing a pilot. This will be the first time that attorneys will have access to this network and this data. And that will be happening sometime in March, I believe, as things are going right now. So that will be the first time that we'll be able to see this data be used in cases. Now, initially, this will be specifically criminal defense cases. We won't have the breadth of information to support the larger civil rights cases and things of that nature, probably until a little bit further on as we have more criminal defense attorneys in and they're starting to report incidents and we start to have a little bit more depth in the database. Can you repeat that? I got the sound on YouTube, so I think I should be able to hear now.
Misconduct cases and to see like, if you go to Chicago, this is what it looks like, or if you go to, I don't know, anywhere, any big city, you can see like how many cases there are in that city. Or like where there might be more cases in different parts of the city. Sorry?
That question to the mic.
To Daryl? Oh. Daryl, the question was, right now, there's the data in New York City, but what is it gonna look like to have more data in places like Massachusetts, for example?
Yeah, it's a good question. So the data right now will be, or we're actually launching in 3 different counties. So it's going to be New York County, which is primarily, Manhattan and kind of the area surrounding New York City. There's going to be Bexar County and Harris County, which are primarily the cities of Houston and San Antonio in Texas. Those will be the first areas that we launch in, and we'll probably expand from there. We're looking at probably the next communities being New Orleans and, most likely Pittsburgh, Philadelphia, and Pennsylvania. And really what we're aiming for is to find places where there's a lot of cross-pollination between the police departments and the people that are going through these places. So what that will look like is essentially you'll be able to kind of map out these incidents and these occurrences as they occur in these different spaces. You'll be able to start to identify police officers on a national level. Right now, one of the things that we found that's interesting, I had a conversation with a group that's doing something along these lines in Louisiana, right? And what we find is, generally speaking, there's organizations that will spring up to deal with these problems, but they're looking at it from a local level. So you've got organizations like 50A, you've got Citizens Police Data Project, which is Chicago-based. You have Texas Justice Initiative, which is Texas-based. These are all organizations that we're engaged with to work with them to combine their data into a single set. One of the very interesting things that they want to do is identify police officers as they move between departments. So we've just made connections between the Louisiana organization and Texas Justice Initiative to try and get their sets together to try and identify the different officers as they work between those departments. So those are the sorts of things that, as we have a more national data set that's more comprehensive and that has a lot of the energy and work coming from attorneys who are then able to look at the data, able to vet it, able to comment on how that data has been used in court, what were the results of that. You'll start to see this system that right now is very opaque become way more transparent over time.
That was the last question.
Okay. Yes, that is the last question. Thank you so much. Hopefully Daryl knows that we muted him. Daryl, you cool?
Okay.
Okay. All right. Thank you so much for the amazing presentation. I think we have one more Code for Boston presentation. That is our friends, the Heat Smart Alliance. Nope. Matter. Yes. And then we'll be joined by some friends from everyone's favorite government agency here in Massachusetts. Aftermath. I'm just trying to get everyone pumped up. And maybe not hostile. Because you're gonna tell them good things about the Green Line. Everyone's favorite source of good news. All right, ready to go?
Ready?
All right. Here's Mount Zagaya.
Thank you so much, Harlan. And I was just reflecting at how appropriate it is that we are in a venture cafe, because what venture is more worthwhile than the planet? And so with that, this is going to seem like a very technical presentation. But in reality, it's just a couple simple stories about a couple partnerships trying to tackle some challenges that we're facing as a society and that we've been facing as an organization. So with that, let's talk about the Boston Heat Pump Accelerator and the Mass Open Cloud. So first and foremost, we had our partners at the Urban League of Eastern Massachusetts, and Christopher Scranton came to us with this problem statement, with a challenge that climate change is occurring faster than predicted. The Commonwealth has a goal for the adoption of heat pumps. We're looking to adopt 100,000 heat pumps by 2025. But we're only 30% of the way there. We need to adopt these heat pumps to achieve our carbon emission reduction goals and prevent the heat death of the earth. That is how dire this is. So air source heat pumps, for those that don't know, pretty simple technology, similar to your air conditioner or your refrigerator. Uses some refrigeration to move heat. So that's the key. The electricity is moving heat from one place to another. And even if it's cold outside, the secret is there's still heat outside. Even in -degree weather, they put these in Arctic climates, and you can definitely heat your home more efficiently than burning ancient dinosaurs in your furnace. So with that, we're asking ourselves, how do we support the efforts of community-based organizations like the Urban League to promote awareness and increase adoption of heat pumps with Boston area homeowners? And so the answer is, of course, a website. So
We've got a team of folks working on different aspects of the website, but this is the current state of it. We're working with the Urban League to get something that's going to be educational, that's going to inform folks about things, and we're doing it with great technologies. We're using JavaScript and React. We're using Redux. We have the latest in UI and UX. We had a really great team of folks going through and figuring out how do we draw people to the most important things, like getting a heat pump or learning about the benefits of heat pumps, very clear call outs there. And also, you know, writing content. We have a lot of non-technical people on our teams that come and volunteer, and they're writing the things that are filling these pages. They're doing the image design, the graphics, all these important parts that really pull it together. It's not just about writing code. It's about, you know, a team of people that partner together working on this project. Another thing is localization and translations. So Boston has many different communities, folks speaking languages like Haitian Creole, Spanish, Portuguese, and it's a very challenging problem to take all this content that everyone's pulled together and translate it. So we've had a whole bunch of folks that work on both building a translation framework. You have to store each copy of the translation and also make the translation happen. There's a little bit of automated work there and also quite a bit of manual work. Believe it or not, the latest machine learning technology, AI, it's getting better. It's not perfect. It doesn't know how to translate things with all the correct nuances. So that's why, you know, we're trying to do this with the community, with folks that understand what the meanings of things are, and really get the message out there to people in a language and format that they're comfortable with. Great part about this, Vernon, you got 24 contributors to it. And, you know, when it's no longer cold out, we'll be launching this with the Urban League. So very excited for that event coming up in the next couple of months. But there's also another challenge that we faced. And so as Harlan alluded to earlier, we've been wrapping up our partnership with Code for America. And we no longer had a place to host this thing. We used to be in Amazon's cloud. We were sending money to Jeff Bezos left and right. And we're like, you know, maybe we could do something a little bit different, something a little bit greener. And so, you know, I went to Christopher with this problem and he said, Matt, I was working with a bunch of folks and back in 2009, they built this Massachusetts Green High Performance Computing Center in Holyoke, Massachusetts. It's an intercollegiate high performance computing facility, joint venture between Boston University, Harvard, MIT, Northeastern, and UMass. And they wanted to have compute power here in the Commonwealth available for research purposes, all sorts of neat things. And then the state said, you know, we'll kick in a little money, but we got to also find some other public interests uses for this system. And so they were, you know, establishing this Mass Open Cloud initiative. We connected with Iran and the folks at Mass Open Cloud and said, you know, we're going to take a chance on you guys. Do you want to do something that's a little different, something that's local, and get your thing out, and a thing that's open source? And so, you know, that this was very exciting to us. Is in Holyoke, so super low latency, the fiber optic cable straight from Western Massachusetts, right to here. Another thing that was nice is community-based. The folks in the open cloud, Mass Open Cloud, and the collaborative being super accessible to us, hearing, you know, our different needs, being able to, you know, work with us on some of the different challenges that we had. They joined us right in Slack, our native comfortable place where we could communicate in little text blobs without having to, like, you know, try and call Amazon customer service or something like that. And, you know, they're open to trying new things, which is awesome. So we're excited about that. The really cool thing is they talked about minimizing the, you know, sort of dirty energy used for this whole thing. And so powered by a waterfall. This is the greenest website on the internet. Not every website is powered by a waterfall. And so in Holyoke, Mass, they have, it's technically a dam, and then it's, the water goes through. But it's connected to the grid, and we like to say we do have the greenest website that's going to be online. And if you go to the Mass Green High Performance Computing Center website, they talk about all the cool things they did to make the building LEED certified and reduce cooling, all sorts of nerdery that goes in to making sure that, we're not wasting any energy doing this hosting. Finally, and most importantly, to us nerds, this whole thing's open source. It was really attractive to us to be on a platform that is open, that we could learn the technologies, that we could use Docker and Kubernetes and all these other weird sounding things that people think, what kind of animal's that? And get our website online, and most importantly, provides us a lot of flexibility. I mean, we can write something for our infrastructure, and it's up in the Mass Open Cloud. We can put a copy on our local computer, we can test it, we can replicate it, we can have a staging website. Best part is that a lot of the things we've been able to automate, working again in Slack with the folks at Mass Open Cloud. They helped us say every time we add an update to our site in our code and push it to GitHub, which is where all our code goes, it automatically builds a new version of the website, pushes it online to a testing space. We can test it there, and then when we're ready, we say release it. It can go to the public site once that's public. So all sorts of really cool things. And we've been working to engage our other team members that have been interested in DevOps, which is not something we've had a large constituency for. And they've been learning a lot. They've been, learning this open source tool that they'll be able to take to different jobs and really use these skills, day to day. And quite frankly, I liked the interface. I thought it was pretty neat. So that is the story of our partnership with the folks at Mass Open Cloud, our partnership with the Urban League. It's only the beginning of the story. I'm sort of excited for what comes next, but I mean, we've had over 50 contributors in the past couple years, folks that have contributed code, contributed things they've written, and it's been great to partner both with Urban League and Mass Open Cloud, and can't wait to find out how we solve this problem by continuing to build partnerships across the city of Boston and the Commonwealth. Thank you, and I'll take questions.
Is there any support in this tool for like folks who rent, who have less autonomy over their adoption to these sort of like heat pump technologies?
So the question is, what about the renters? Like, what can they do about heat pumps? Right now, the unfortunate answer, Christopher, do you want to answer that?
Let's
give you the microphone so the phone or internet can hear.
Thank you. Can you hear me? Yes. Great. My name is Christopher Scranton. I'm a board member with the Urban League. And the question was, what kind of support, or is there any support for renters in the same areas that we're trying to serve? The answer is renters are, without question, a really important part of these communities. The initial effort here was funded by, and we should have them in anything. This is my omission, but it was funded by the Massachusetts Clean Energy Center with a pilot grant. And the pilot grant does not give us the ability to do both homeowners and renters. It's just too big a potential demographic. So we started with homeowners. But the plan is, without question, to be able to support renters in the future. The difficulty is that many renters do not have actual control over several aspects that are necessary for the certain kinds of support programs that the state offers. But the state is expanding their programs, and there are also technologies that allow renters to install heat pumps in their own windows. And so I encourage folks to look that up, and we will put that on our website. But for the moment, homeowners.
Other questions? Harlan?
Is the waterfall turned off this summer?
As far as I'm aware, the waterfall continues falling.
Yeah.
Any other questions? All right, Harlan, I'll hand it off back to you for your next presentation.
All right. Good a good night. Good stuff. You gotta give me a little bit. So we're in the home stretch. I'd like to invite up Jesse Biersack from the MBTA. Let's talk about the Green Line. This is a project that's very near and dear to my heart. I worked on this project about 5 years ago. And I'm so thrilled to see where this team has taken a sweet little pilot that we started. What happened? You had it and then it went away. Okay. Yeah. Microsoft Tech, everybody. You know, Jesse, I'm like 98% sure I made this deck format.
You know, I copied a lot since 2018.
Yeah, great.
I need to remember this.
You want to talk a little bit about?
Sure.
All right, let's give it up for the MBTA.
Yeah. Right, while we do this, any Green Line riders? Awesome, cool, it's gonna get better. Not right now. Any other line riders?
Red.
Oh, yeah.
Purple.
Orange.
That was wrong. Yeah, okay. Cool. My name is Jesse Borosak. I am a program manager in the Transit Technology Program in the newly renamed Technology Innovation Department. The slides don't reflect that yet, and we didn't choose the name. In a former life, I was the Harlan of Code for San Francisco. I am amped, thank you, and the Michelle of Code for San Jose. I'm amped to be here tonight because I've done and run demo nights before back in San Francisco, and this is an important part of the Brigade program. So I think you will dig this.
Don't say brigade.
What do we call it? Great. Thing we're at. Yes. This. All right. These are Glide's teammates, past and present. Hello, couldn't have done this without you, thank you. I don't know who that guy is. That was the first product manager back in 2018, and that photo is from 2015. So the agenda for tonight, Glides in 60, probably not actually 60 seconds. We're gonna talk some train sheet. And then I'm gonna do a pulse check to see whether it was like overload and you're kind of done, or whether you wanna see some old stuff that nobody really sees anymore, but I think it's kind of cool. So let's do it. It is mid-June 2023. You are riding the Green Line from point A to point B. You want to get to point B by 4 p.m. So you calculate you need to leave around 3:30 p.m. You get to point A a little early, just in case, and there's no train there. Since you are at a light rail terminal and the Green Line and Mattapan not day one, right, day X. The MBTA is legally required to save them for 7 years. And we're no longer at 4 pullout locations, we are at 7, so you math people, go for it. That's with the Green Line extension. So I think that you all are nerdy enough in the way that I'm nerdy enough to handle a little transit nerdery. So here's the TLDR on what a train sheet is. You have to understand a train sheet, that light rail operates roughly on a preset schedule. This is the same for the other subway lines too. Train trips are scheduled to depart from terminals at neatly spaced intervals, also known as a headway. And here it is every 5 minutes on this slide. If you don't know who that person is, he's the new general manager. And if you don't know who that person is, probably read a newspaper. So I read newspapers. I pay for my Globe subscription. Thank you very much. And of course, the operators, the people who are driving the trains, they have schedules too. They are usually far more complex than the train schedules. Those are the vehicles. And each of these trips mentioned are assigned to specific people. So Harlan has a trip, I have a trip, Phil has a trip, Maura has a trip. So when I said roughly, last slide, we all know that the T does not run perfectly on time. Even if we are trying hard. That was not our fault. You were on the train.
On the train.
Right, not our fault. Our trucks. So the train sheets are the initial game plan, right? The schedule of trains and operators leaving a given terminal, as well as a record of adjustments. So if a train has to get canceled, or if Matt is filling in for me because I called out sick today, because I'm not sure why, maybe I have like 90 types of COVID, I don't. Or if the train is being told to intentionally leave 2 minutes late because maybe one of the other million scenarios, like a car drove onto our tracks, that all gets recorded on the train sheets. And if you don't remember from like 7 slides ago, for light rail in June 2023 and before, these are literal sheets of paper. And that all changed on July 17th, 2023, when some of my aforementioned colleagues and I finished transitioning every light rail terminal to a digital, editable, mobile-friendly, fully featured to paper equivalent version that shares real-time data essential to the work of at least 8 other job classifications. That also comes in light mode when it's really something. Let's just bask in that digital transformation win for a second with a couple of staged candidates from the Mattapan launch. No more paper used to be stored in heaps upon heaps of bankers' boxes in room after room at multiple locations throughout the system. We have a Ship It channel in our Slack, and I posted the other day just like some empty shelves that aren't being filled by paper. It was wonderful. So you're thinking, cool, digital 21st century, yada, cool, I'm with you, save the trees and stuff. But why should I care beyond that? Well, I will tell you. Putting tools like digital train sheets into the hands of these pullout officials can give you, the riding public, accurate, real-time train departure information. At most light rail terminals, like Riverside, we don't make predictions for trains because of how often they don't run on schedule. Perfectly on schedule. And we don't make predictions at downstream stations on the far side, like North Station, until the train leaves the first stop, Riverside. By moving to digital train sheets, we can display projected departure times on station screens, just like we do at heavy rail terminals today. Future tense, we will do that. We are working on that now. We are also going to add more of these fun little screens, these are called e-ink, to Green Line stations and terminals. They use solar power. That's Guy, where are you? Solar power. To power themselves. It's just like a Kindle, but better. So, should I keep going? There's more. Pulse check, yes? Okay, all right, cool, just checking, because this can get dense. I get it, but transit nerdery, I love it. So, there's some internal benefits and some prototyping process stuff, which I think will be most applicable to the Code for Boston group. One thing you may have experienced is a train is coming to you and you're like, great, my train is here. And then it doesn't stop. You may have experienced that. That is called a non-revenue train. Revenue is when you pay a fare. And this is one you can't pay a fare on because it's not a train that you can get on. So that's a test train. That is an instruction train. That is a train that is disabled. Lots of trains happen this way, and we are currently working on that. Marley, the product manager, new product manager. Ooh, yes, thank you so much for coming. We're working on non-revenue logging so that when we give you a prediction, you will see the train coming and be like, oh, I don't have a prediction for that train. I can't get on that train. Even though I see a train, there's like no prediction. It must be the app. No, it's not the app. It's the real data. You cannot get on that train. We will tell you. Let's see. We can say in the PA announcements, this train will not be stopping. So if you're at a station with a PA system, which they should have them, they don't all, but we're working on it. We'll say this train is not stopping. It is a test train or as an instruction train, something like that. Try to communicate with the people. Let's see. It will give you time to meditate or call your parent or don't smoke cigarettes. So let's see. Train sheets can also be a platform. This is kind of cool. So the benefits of train sheets are like, all right, I can log when the train's going to leave as a bullet official. But then there's something called midline service changes, where in the middle of your trip, right? Maybe you're not on it yet. Maybe you're waiting at some midline. So you're at Babcock on the B branch, right? And you're waiting there. And you're like, when's my train going to get here? And we can tell you it's going to be delayed because someone drove their car on the tracks. And so we have a disabled train. It's blocked. Sorry, tough nookies, right? Or we can say, we are going to cross this train back. Or we are going to say, we are going to express this train, right? It would be awesome to express trains. Which we don't do that in winter. We never express trains below 32 degrees because that leaves people behind. They need to walk farther, and that's not cool. Let's see. Expressing trains. Okay, there's one really, really cool thing that you will never, ever see. It's an internal benefit. So the car house, which is where all the Green Line trains, there are multiple car houses. It's a Green Line train maintenance center called a car house. The car house could use glides. This is called glides. And it used to stand for Green Line Intelligent Design Execution System.
No, Green Line.
We're gonna go with that.
Yeah.
And it is no longer an acronym. We just call it glides. A sentence case. So the car house can request in glides, hey, we need these trains, and then everyone managing service in the service area can say, oh, that train needs preventative maintenance. Don't spend vehicle maintenance 30% of your time looking for that train to try to get it into the shop. We'll just get it there for you. That would be a huge saving, so they can like repair the train rather than look for the train. There's like 5 phone calls to that process right now. It's really frustrating for them. I'm looking forward to using this as a platform to do those types of things. So I know that you all ride the T. Thank you, first of all. But we internally need tools like this to provide good service to you. So that is the purpose of Glides. That is the purpose of this team. We have worked hard internally. You will never see really anything about this, but we are using this type of a tool to provide service to you. What does that mean when we have better tools? More specifically, we can retrain operators who speed because we know who they are digitally, and you can just do a quick query on like, hey, who are the operators who speed? Great, 10% of, oh, those are the top 10, worst offenders. Let's go retrain them so they don't get into train accidents. We could do that. We can detect adjust like service trends more real time, so that we can adjust service and even out those headways, the distance between trains. We can study dropped trip patterns. Drop trip is when a train, you think it's gonna leave, but then somebody doesn't show up, or the pullout official just drops it and says, well, we need to even out a headway. There's a whole bunch of stuff. We can do investigations more quickly, thoroughly. So none of that requires filling a file cabinet or a room or many rooms with paper. So yeah, started in 2018, Harlan, thank you, used to track trains. I don't know who that guy is. Great, cool, old photo of like, I guess it's not that old, but this is what's inside a car house. This is a vehicle maintenance car house. This is some of our, I wasn't on the project at this point. This is Harlan. Sky on the left is still with the project. Lots of stickies. I'm sure you all are fans of Post-it notes. We do the same thing. Here is what the Operations Control Center uses as their train tracker for now. We just got clearance to redo it, make it nice, and add useful stuff. Here's some throwback photos coming up, or photos. This is how we prototyped. So you can see how this evolved into something that is normally a landscape view, like 23-row spreadsheet dense with information. And how do you make that mobile friendly? Because sometimes it's a snowstorm and you have to cut the brakes on a train. They can operate with 50% of their brakes. It's totally safe. And then you need to like mark something in your app. You need a phone. It needs to work on your phone. So we started mobile first. MVP designs, you will never ever see these again. These are from back in the day. Thank you, Harlan was like designer and PM.
I was not designer.
You didn't know do anything? Oh, great. Well, thanks for not.
We work with DocBot in the originals.
Right.
And then we had internal.
That's just have to relate. Yes.
What makes the Green Line like unique to other train lines or moving it to heavy rail? Like,
Sure. Yeah, so the question was, what makes the Green Line unique? The Green Line you could imagine as a bus on rails. So bus, you have an accelerator and a brake. Green Line, you have the same thing. Might not be with your foot, might be with your hand, but it's this just like that, except on rails. Heavy rail, so there's no. On heavy rail, you have signals that govern how fast you can go. Or you can go at all. On heavy rail, you just go, stop. And there are these things called stop codes or signal codes that tell you whether you can go and how fast you can go, et cetera.
Also a great.
Say again. Right. So if you've been on the E branch, you are in mixed traffic with cars and bikes and people. And on heavy rail, it is a dedicated right of way. So the right of way is that train path. Except on the Green Line, it's with everybody in some spots. Cool.
I was gonna ask the same question, but about the data backend.
Cool.
How is the data that's different from the light rail versus heavy rail?
Sure. So, ready? It's gonna get dense. On heavy rail, you have something called a block. A block is when a set of trains is called a consist. It's spelled consist, pronounced consist. I don't know why. And that goes there, and it comes back. And on the Green Line, that is not how it works. It goes, and then maybe it loops, or maybe it switches ends, or maybe it breaks down, or who knows what. It's a crapshoot. So the data reflects that. So you have a schedule for heavy rail. You can just go like, great, I'm going to assume that this set of 6 cars is going to go there and in a loop on repeat. And on the red line, it's going to be slightly more complicated, but not really that much more complicated. On the Green Line, you have like all these branches too. So Riverside goes to Union Square, Heath Street goes to Medford. Why they chose those, I don't know. I don't think it makes a ton of sense personally. And those all come from Innerbelt Yard, except when they originally ate at Riverside, and they also could come from Boston College, which is fed by the Reservoir Yard, which also feeds the Cleveland Circle line. And so, good luck.
How did the announcements on the trains work? Like, how does the train know when the play is starting now?
Great question. It is usually, sure. Sorry, how does the train know which announcement is playing? There is an RFID reader. That's most of the time what happens. So it passes by, there's a little card thing, goes like, taps its butt against the reader, and then says, we are now at place. We want to do better than that, though. We can do more descriptive stuff like connections to this and that.
Do you ever talk with other agencies like the MTA, New York City?
Yes, we have a shared Slack channel. Do we talk with other agencies like the MTA? Yes, we have a shared Slack channel. We email them, not just MTA. We have a big equivalent with Chicago Transit Authority because their stuff is above ground and slightly less heavy rail-y than the MTA, which is a lot of underground dedicated right-of-way stuff.
Yes, slight follow-on question from that. All these different agencies that are running them, do they all have their own like custom platforms? So is there like an off-the-shelf solution that you could run this up?
So the question was, do they all have their own custom platforms, or is there any off-the-shelf stuff? There is off-the-shelf stuff. And I had some colleagues who just recently went out to Utah, and apparently Utah has got their stuff in order. So it's not off the shelf, I'll put it that way. There are a couple companies who I've just recently become aware of who do have their act together. And let's talk tech for just a second. I said, do you have an API for your software? And they said, yeah. And I was like, that's not a standard answer. And then they started making fun of XML. And I was like, great. like, let's use JSON. And they were like, why wouldn't we? It's like, that's kidding yourself. So that was great.
Are there any limitations or room for improvement when you consider like train stock? Like as they turn over and you get improved train stock, or as the rails change and get worked on?
Yes, so is there room for improvement? Cool. Is there room for improvement as the trains change and evolve and get better and stuff like that? Absolutely. So right now we are in the multi-year procurement, which means buying process for the type 10s, which are the, you see a 3.6 or a 3.7 starting the train number, those are type 7s. 3.8 starts type 8s, 3.9 starts type 9s. We have a type 9. Whatever. The type 10s, I don't know what they're gonna name them, because probably just gonna do 310. We'll find out though, I don't know. We are buying those and designing those right now. And so some of the things that we are adding are like, rather than the pullout official having to say, Jesse is driving this train, they can RFID themselves to the train, which will say, here is your work, reject, ratify. And then the work will be there for them based on what the pullout official has put into glides. But they are not coming for at least a couple years. Well, you can hold your breath on that though. 2026.
So not about the presentation, but as a breadline writer, the fake contactless payment test queue is you'll need at this point. So is there a progress update you can share with breadline writers? Because the MBTA Twitter is sick of hearing from us.
They are, but you can keep asking. Boy.
Live worldwide, by the way.
I have no way answering that question. I will get in trouble.
It's the order of magnitude on years.
Well, I joined in 2018 and it was supposed to come in 2020. It's 2024. So nope. I got it. And it is a hard thing that they're doing. It's a hard thing they're doing. I'm gonna pass it. Thank you.
Thank you.
College? Yes. Okay, perfect.
Thank you so much, Jesse, for the presentation. Thank you for taking care of my baby.
Yeah.
Is this a good night?
Yes.
Can you do this again, Tim? Do you want to do anything else to close out besides wish these people?
Wish them luck.
All right. Thank you all for coming. We hope to see some of you at Hack Night. Again, we're here at CIC every Tuesday at 7 o'clock. Hit us up on Meetup if you have any questions. All the presenters, hey, presenters, put your hands up. If you have any questions about the presentations, come hit them up. We have the space for another 20 minutes or so. Grab a drink, grab any cookies or anything that's left. Please take stuff.